welcome everybody. Welcome to a new hackathon session calling Restful Services the Reactive way with Helidon. And today we have a special guest, David Krauff from the Helidon team.
Hello, it's really great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And we also have another guy from the Helidon team. Dimitri is also online. Hi, Dimitri.
Hey.
How are
Hello,
you?
it's nice to be here again. Yes, I'm like almost constantly with you. It's a pleasure as always. Yes, so great to be here again with you this evening.
Great to see you guys.
Pleasure.
So, today I will be talking with you about how to call RESTful services the reactive way with using Helidon. I will introduce myself one more time here. My name is David Krauff, and I work as a Java developer at Oracle, and more particularly at Team Helidon. On your screens, you can currently see also my work email, so feel free to send me a message if you have any questions, which you will not have today, but you can have them later. So feel free to ask me if I can help you somehow with this area, which I'll be presenting here today. All right, so that's about me, and let's move on. This is some safe harbor statement. I guess we will not be talking much here about that. And now we are getting to the actual agenda of my presentation. Well, the first thing here, I will just very briefly describe what the Helidon is, since in most of the presentations, even though then there were some presentations about Helidon before, I really do believe that there is someone actually who don't know what Helidon is or don't know what to imagine about behind this name. So I will create a very brief introduction to what Helidon is. Then I will show you the basic structure of Helidon. But since this presentation is not about Helidon itself, it's just about one of its part, which is called web client. That's the reactive client I will be presenting today. Because of that, I will not be talking about the Helidon itself more than that. And then I will get to the demo. The demo itself will be done via live coding. So this will be more interactive, I guess. And then there is some Q&A session. So if you will have any questions, there will be place for those. All right. I guess it's pretty clear now what we will be having today, and I can move on. So what is it, Helidon? What you can actually, how you can describe it. So, well, the Helidon is a set of Java libraries for developing microservices. That's essentially what Helidon is. That's the definition, right? And Helidon itself consists of two main parts. One of the parts is Helidon Reactive, and the second part is Helidon Microprofile. I will start with Helidon Reactive. That's like the smaller part, or that's the part which is programmed by reactive way, right? It's using builder-like patterns for really easy usability. And it actually doesn't contain any frameworks which are doing the magical stuff in your applications, such as dependency injections or annotation processing and stuff like that. All right, so that's Helidon Reactive, right? And in terms of Helidon Microprofile, it's actually a set of libraries or a set of implementations, well, of microprofile, right? And it also contains some implementations of Jakarta Enterprise, and also the dependency injection and annotation processing. So in this part of Helidon, there is also the magic there. And both of these are based on NetEase, so they are pretty fast and easy to use. And I might say also that Helidon Reactive is based directly on Netty, and Helidon MicroProfile is based on Helidon Reactive. Okay, so that's about Helidon. I guess we do not have to talk about it more, since there already has been a presentation directly focused on Helidon. And let's take a look into what we will be doing today. Today we will be talking about Helidon Web Client. That's part of Helidon Reactive. So it's Reactive HTTP client, and it's it's using builder-like setups and executions for its requests. It's more or less the standard in all of the Helidon SE parts, right? And yeah, it's based on Netty, so again, it's fast. Well, then I guess we don't have to talk about Helidon web client itself more, and let's take a look into the actual demo, right? Because I guess that's the actual interesting part here on this presentation. All right, so the demo. What are we going to create here? So the first thing which I'll be doing is I'll do some introduction to MP Quick Start or Helidon MicroProfile Quick Start, since that's our base project for introduction to Helidon MicroProfile. I know that I said that Helidon Web Client is a part of Helidon Reactive, but it actually doesn't matter. I have chosen to use MicroProfile Quick Start because it uses JSON resources, and I do believe that most of you are more familiar with using JSON resources than Helidon SE way of doing this kind of stuff. So I think this will be better for you, so I've chosen it like that. Then I will tell you something more about the project which we'll be developing in, and then we will start developing the actual codes, the actual examples of that client. All right, so I guess that was enough talking and theory, and now let's take a look into the MP Quick Start itself. All right, so now you should see on your screens JSON resource, which is called grid resource. This project itself is that mentioned MP Quick Start project. If some of you want to generate it or to have a very similar or more or less the same project as I'm having right now, you can generate it via Helidon CLI tool or via Maven archetype. You can do it on our page, which is helidon.io, and under section of documentation. So after that, it's very simple to find and actually very simple to generate the same project as we are having here. Okay, so that's about how I have created this project and where I get it and where you can get it. And now let's take a look into the resource itself. This resource will be only for testing purposes. We will not be using it. I will not return to this JSON resource after I will finish the introduction of it, because that's not what we are, why we are here actually. Right, so this is just a simple JSON resource based on path grid, right? Nothing too fancy there. Then there is an endpoint, default endpoint, which returns some default grid message. In this case, it will be JSON, and this JSON will consist of one key, which will be message, and a value. In this case, it will be hello world, right? Then there is another endpoint which accepts a name as a path parameter. So for example, when I will say, if I will choose as a path parameter David, it will just say, hello, David. It just returns more or less the same greeting as this default one.
Ja, schauen wir mal, wer das ist. Das ist der David Kral.
And then there is an endpoint get redirect or endpoint redirect, right? And there I will show you how web client can very easy handle redirections. So that's what we will be using it is for. Then there is another endpoint, which is called user agent. Well, this will just demonstrate, again, how easy it is to set an actual new header or change the existing one. So, right, yeah, that's for that. Then there is the endpoint counter, and this will just return some basic JSON object with a number key and current counter of how many times this method has been called. Right? Nothing hard to understand, I guess. And since all of these endpoints before were gets, now we should have something else there also. So I'm having here put endpoint. So now we'll be able to actually change the greeting itself. So before we've been greeted like hello world or hello David, for example, right? And we can change the greeting using this endpoint. Right. And that's it. That's about the resource which we will be using as a base for our tests. Okay, so I will just start it. I will just start Helidon MP. As you can see, it's running on port 8080 at localhost. One thing here which I'll actually probably need to do is to make stuff a bit bigger. And now I will switch to, or I have switched to the project where we'll be actually testing the web client. Let me just change the font size, since I think it will be more pleasant for you if it will be a bit bigger. And I thought I've changed that. All right, so one more time here. Oh, great. And where was it? Oh yeah, it was in appearance as far as I know. Oh yeah. Right, now it should be way more easily readable for you to actually see it. Right. Okay, so this is some clear Maven project. Nothing else than one dependency is added there. This particular dependency is Helidon web client. That's the actual dependency we need for our web client to run, and that's basically it. Right. So yeah, and also we'll be using Helidon version 2.1, which is actually currently the latest. Okay. I will close one window here. All right, and if I will now open my main class here, I can actually start doing some tests with Helidon web client, since I have talked a lot, but we didn't see any code yet. So let's start. Okay. Firstly, we have to create the web client itself. All right, so we'll create web client. Let's call it, for example, web client, because I'm very creative here. And then let's use an easy factory method here, create. As you could probably see, there are several other methods there. Method also create, but which accepts config. This config is Helidon SE config, and that means you can modify the default behavior of the web client itself via config, but you can do it also via builder. So yeah, that's that. But for our first example here, we will use just a regular factory method create, and then we will get to the builder itself, right? Okay, so now we have a web client created, and let's say we want to contact the default endpoint, which I've described a few minutes ago, and we want to get response. Well, that's that's the point of it, right? So let's say we want to use get request. So we will say just web client.get. And then we have to specify where we want to target our requests. So just say URI and HTTP, right? A local host that was and the port was 8080. That was the port I shown you as the last thing in the previous project. And this is basically it. That's all you need to do to execute the request itself, right? And now the actual execution. So we'll say request, and that's it. This request returns single. Single is well, it's Helidon hybrid between completion stage and reactive operators. So some of you might be familiar with it already, but yeah, I will show you how to actually work with that. All right, so what will we have here when I'll execute it? Currently, we are getting here some class which is called web client response. This instance which we will get here is an actual response which wasn't handled by web client yet, since you will get status codes, you will get response headers there. Actually, I can show you even, right? So let's say for single and response. And now, as you can see, there are several methods here, like status. This just returns the status of the response. For you might be interesting also headers. Those are the headers you actually received in the response. And then content method. That's the method which contains the unhandled entity of the response. One way you could handle it is to call just response.content and then method s. And now you can say string.class. This way you would handle the response entity as a string. Yeah, this is okay, I guess, but there has to be a simpler way. I don't expect you all want to do this every time when you are executing the request, right? And actually there is. That's actually why I'm talking about it. I can delete this line here. I can just say that I want to execute a request, and this is the type which I want the response to be converted to. So I will get a string from this request. This will be the entity handled or converted to this type, right? And that's it. And now we can actually execute it. Okay. Right. And nothing happens. All right. Why is that? Well, basically because of it actually proves that this web client is the reactive one, because we have executed the request, but since we are in a main method here, our program just finished, right? It ended up, and JVM was terminated, so we wasn't able to actually handle any response here. In that case, and because of that, here we will have to use a method await. This actually is waiting here till the request, the response is obtained and is converted. When it's done, it actually finishes. All right. Currently, we would just get a string value, but we wouldn't do anything with it, and it will not be printed out either anyway. So we just have to add here for single. That's the method I have actually used before. And I will say, let's say system.out, because I just want to print it out. I just want to verify that I've actually got something. And right, and now if we will execute it, we will get, oh yeah, silly me. Right, we have to also specify the path to the target, to the endpoint, right? So since I've mentioned before that that the resource is on path grid, so we have to add it here. Otherwise, it wouldn't find it. Okay. And now, as you can see, we have received finally some message. We have received some JSON message here, and we have converted it to string. Right. So now we are having a JSON message. All right, but it's a string, and that's not very convenient, right? When it's a JSON, you want to actually work with it as a JSON. And for this purpose, we actually do have some extended support. So we can add one more dependency here. So if I will take a look into the POM file here, I have already one dependency here added, and that's Helidon Media JSON-P. That's the extended support. It actually adds media support for JSON-P objects, right? All right, so let's refresh and let's take a look how to do that. Right. One might say, all right, I have this this JSON-P support on my class path, and now I will just say JSON object. JSON object, right? As you can see, it's the JSON-P one. And well, now let's try to execute it. All right. As you can see, now we got a different type of exception here. This time, it's actually because we have no reader found for this particular class. All right. So even though we have added media support for JSON-P, we have to just let web client know that it should use it. Right. Other than that, web client wouldn't know. Okay, so we can just say web client builder. That's the other approach I have mentioned before. And let's add a method build here, and yeah, to have it like this. And then we can just say add media support, right? So we are adding some media support. I guess that's obvious. And this particular media support is JSON-P support .create, and that's it. That's what you have to do. Now, when we execute it, execute our request, this will actually add the support of JSON-P to our web client. So if we'll execute it now, as you can see, we got pretty much the same message as before. And that's because the JSON object has been properly handled, and then it's been printed out. And since this is how the JSON object generates its this is what toString method of JSON object is generating. So the message here is exactly the same, but it's different type here now. Okay, so that's actually how to convert this obtained message from, or this obtained entity from the endpoint. And since we've been doing only GET requests here, I guess it would be also nice to know how to execute some PUT request, right? It's something you normally do when you are doing with the clients. Okay, so let's say we want to update the greeting. So far, we've been getting the hello world, since we've been targeting the default endpoint there, right? And now we want to just change the hello to something else. Okay, so we can do that. And the endpoint for changing, or the endpoint which changes this greeting, actually accepts JSON object. So we can say JSON object, right? And again, be very creative here. And let's say JSON and create object builder. I like to do it this way. So right. Dot. And now let's say, how was the format? Greeting, was it? Yeah. All right. Greeting. And let's say, for example, hi, right? Just change it to something. All right. So now we have created a JSON-B object. And this object will contain one key, greeting, and a value, hi. Right. And now we do have to actually invoke the request. I will just comment this out since I do not need it right now. And I will do it just web client. And I've mentioned that we will be sending something. So we are not obviously using get here. So this endpoint is using put. So we are using put here also. And again, we have to specify where we are targeting. So we are targeting, again, the same endpoint here. And right. Sorry, not exactly the same endpoint, but the same resource. And we have to target this particular endpoint here. Okay, and now let's say we want to submit the data to the server, and we will just say that we want to submit this object, and we could also specify how we want to handle the entity which would be returned to us. That would be the second parameter here. For example, string.class, right? If we would just handle it as a string. But since I know that there will be no content response, so we do not have to actually do it. It's not necessary there. Okay. Let's just close this to have more space. And okay, after we execute this request, it would be nice also to be able to just verify that this request has been made and it's been successful, right? But we want to do it directly when this one is done. So we could do something like this, right? We could use the previous call and just verify that the message we have received is different with the different greeting. Well, but it's not very nice since it's very chatty here, and yeah, I don't think this is the approach you would choose here. Okay, so we can say, let me just do it like this, flat map. We can use flat map, and flat map, well, it's just flat map. I'm not exactly sure what I should more describe there. It's just doing exactly the same as you are familiar with flat map in other parts of Java. So that's that. And let's say it, right? Oh, goddamn. Right. Yeah, finally. And now we can say web client, since we want to actually execute another request. And this will be web client. Now we are executing get request somewhere. And again, we have to specify where we are executing this request. So we can actually copy this line here. Now we will not be executing it to the greeting here, but let's target the place which actually greets some specific name you have mentioned in a path. So we can say David here. And what we should get here is hi David greeting in a JSON. Okay. And oh yeah, obviously request, and we can do it as a JSON object, right? More or less the same stuff we have done here, but this time it's inlined and it's flat mapped right after when this request is it's done and handled. Okay. And now we can actually say for each, because we will want to do some operation when this finished, and the flat map here is returning multi. That's another reactive operator of ours. Before we were using single, and that's why these methods are a bit different, because before it was for single, well, because single, right? And then now we are having multi here, but the value will be only one there. So we can do more or less the same as we did before, just system.out and method reference to print line. Good. And now we have to wait again, because otherwise our program would terminate it and wouldn't wait for response. Sweet, and that's it. So we can now execute a request again, and let's see what our response will be. And since we have formatted everything properly, I mean this greeting for sorry, this JSON with the greeting, which should have been changed. So as you can see, we got a message here, hi David, and that's actually it verifies that the greeting itself was changed, and also that the endpoint we have been calling with the specific name has been properly targeted, right? Okay, but I guess that many of you who are looking at it probably currently are saying to yourself that, well, this is great. All right, so I will have to just write this all the time, and every time I want to just write one request, or sorry, if I will write, for example, like thousands of requests, I will have to just copy this everywhere. Well, yeah, this would be great. So because of that, you can actually specify it only on one place, and that's here in Web Client Builder. You can specify the base URI, and that will be the base, which will be used for all of the requests you will be doing. So we can do this, and now we are saying that all of our requests should be targeted to the 8080 port, right? And should target the JSON resource called greet. And that's it. Now what we do have to change here is actually to use instead URI here, to use path. So we'll just say we want to use this, we want to use this base URI, and we want to add to it a greet. So it will just add slash here, and it will add greeting there, right? And now we can actually do exactly the same thing here with another request, with the get request we are executing. And we can just say path and David. And now let's try it. Let's execute it. Okay, so the result is exactly the same. So everything was executed properly, and as you can see, we got everything we have expected. All right, so this is currently I guess some basic use case you could try. But you also might want to, for example, follow redirects. So I've already mentioned that I have endpoint there for it. So let's try that, right? Why not? So let's just comment this out since we can use it. I will comment this out. And right, we can, oh yeah, path. And it will be endpoint redirect. This endpoint will return redirection code and a new location. So let's try it. Okay. As you can see, we have received 307, but by default, web client is not following any redirects. So it just printed out that it couldn't handle the entity returned as a JSON object because it received 307 status code. All right. So if we want to let the web client to follow these redirects, we can just say, okay, in a builder, let's just follow redirects. And that's it. Right. And if we'll execute it now, we'll get a proper message here because the redirection is redirecting us to the base endpoint of this resource. So we should get the updated greeting since we have updated it here in the previous examples, right? And a world name since it's the default endpoint there. All right. Sweet. So this is actually how you can very easily follow redirects, but this is only one of the use cases you could do. In many cases, you might want to also add some headers, right? That's a very common use case you want to do. You can actually add every header you desire. That's basically up to you, right? So we can actually, I don't recall the proper name of the endpoint here. Oh, yeah, obviously. So let's just target their header endpoint, right? And let's see what it will do. Now I know that this endpoint is not returning a JSON object, so I know it just returns a regular string. So I will just change the type which I want to get from a web client there. And now let's try it. Okay, and now we have received that Helidon user agent was obtained. And it had a value Helidon 2.1 and blah, 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 just some information there, okay? That's the default user agent specified by web client. But, well, obviously you might want to change it since you don't want to say every time that you are Helidon or you want to name yourself something different, right? So you can just do this. There is a specified method for this on web client builder itself, and you can just say, since we are using builder, I will call it builder agent because because why not? And Just execute it now. And as you can see, we have received a different message this time, or different different agent there, different user agent, since we have specified a different here, and it replaced the one which was specified in which was specified by default. Okay, so this is a way how to do it via web client builder, and this header then will be used in all of other in all places where we are executing this web client instance, right? But you can actually also specify some specific behavior, some specific properties only for specific request, because if you wouldn't be able to, then you would have to create every time a new instance of web client, and that's nonsense. Why would you do that, right? Since you have already one created. Well, then you can just say headers, and this time we are not providing any helpful methods here, I mean directly on the request builder, but you can do it via using this headers method, which will provide you the headers you are currently having. And you can do for example this. So headers, as you can see on headers itself, you have a lot of different methods you can use. You have here accepted types, you can add them, right? You can add some cookie values, that's up to you. You can specify a content length if you know it. If you don't know it, it will be specified automatically for you, and stuff like that, right? So in my case here, I will just use put method here, and let's say http.header, right? That's where in Helidon we have all the constants for headers, and let's say just user agent. And now we can specify a different one. So we can say, for example, request agent, since this will just basically prove that this being set in request, and just say return headers. Okay. Fine. So this is how you can specify a custom header or any other header you want to do want to set, sorry, via web client builder and request builder. And let's see. As you can see, now the agent has been changed to request agent, since we have changed or override the builder agent we have for all other requests, but for this particular request, we wanted something else. So you can do exactly the same approach for any other header you desire. That's completely up to you. And yeah, that's it. Okay. I was thinking about what to show you after this, and I was thinking that, or I have already got some questions. For example, how to create a request which will be executed over and over, which will be, for example, 1 per minute or something like that. Basically, how to do recursive request, right? It's actually very easy to do, and for that we will use a different endpoint here. But let's comment this out because we'll use a different approach here. Okay, so now we can use multi That's the reactive operator of ours. I have already talked about it before, a little bit before. And now we can say interval. Interval is here basically for scheduling some repeating operation, and it accepts 3 parameters there. And so the first one is a period. So something like I might say that I want to repeat it every 1 second, for example. So I will say 1 here. Then I have to specify a time unit, which specifies what this period is about. So we can say time unit, right? And let's say seconds, because I want to execute or repeat the request every 1 second. And then I just have to specify some executor servers here. I will use here, sorry, not executor service, executors, right? Yeah. And I will use a new single thread executor, right? And now, since we have set it up this this interval, now we can actually create a request. So let's say flat map, right? For example, it. And let's use web client, and let's use get again. And now we can target that counter endpoint I have mentioned. And that's more or less it. Now we just have to execute it. So let's say I want to execute it. And since I know it, again, returns JSON object, I can just say JSON object.class. Okay. Fine. And what we can do with it. Let's say we want to get, for example, the amount which was in a counter. So the counter is returning us an object here, sorry, the JSON object here, which will have 1 key. This time it will be number, and a value will be a number of already executed requests to that particular endpoint. Okay, so let's say just JSON, and we can do JSON.get int, and that was number. Since I know that the value of it is actually an integer. Then we can do, for example, we can print out what was the number, right? Why not? So we can just say peak number. And again, as always, well, this time it will be just print on print line, and we can say counter method. And now let's append here the number, right? Why not? And again, as always, we just have to add here await. Oh, yeah. Now we have to do actually on error here, since I want to do some error handling. It's completely forgot about it. Now let's imagine that some exception has been thrown there, and we want to just catch it and do some magic with it, whatever you want to. And let's do, for example, this. I will just print out some message there. Right. Oh my, why it's not there? what I'm missing. Right, I'm missing here something and I don't know what. That's great. Sweet. Let's do this. Okay, so now if you'll execute it, it will be executed once there, since we are having the first here. But what if we want to actually be executed multiple times? Well, then let's say this, and you know what? Without this one, we'll do it like this. Right, like this. Yeah, finally, I found myself. Right. And as you can see, it skipped one because we have already once called and the counter is static there. And now it's repeatedly calling the counter path or endpoint, and it's getting updated value every time it actually receives the value. And I actually now know why it wasn't working there before, but it never minds. Well, let's say that you don't want it to run indefinitely, right? For example, let's say you want it to run only till only 5 times, for example, right? Or better to say, in this case, we want it to run until the counter or the number here in a counter is, for example, greater than 10. Well, then let me just refresh our endpoint here just to start from 0, because it's better shown that way. And all right, we can do it now currently with a peak. And let's say now we can actually add there a filter, which will help us to filter out whether it should continue running, right? So let's say number. And we should continue running if until number is greater than 10. So yeah. And if we want to stop after that, we just have to say first here, and we can actually add a peak there again. Right. And let's do something else here. I can just add an X here just because I want to see that there is a bit updated message there. Okay. And if I'll execute this again. Sweet. Now it's running. And as you can see, the counter is increasing. Now we hit, bigger than 10 here. So now we are at number 11 here, and actually countdown stopped. So it's done, right? So that's actually how you can schedule a repeating task there and how you can do that. All right, so I think that this is more or less it from our presentation. We are getting to the end. I think that if anyone is interested actually to start working with Helidon, I have already mentioned it a bit before. I think that a great way how to start with Helidon is to go to our webpage, helidon.io, and try to take a look into the documentation sections there. We are continuously improving the documentations itself, and we are really trying hard for you guys to be able to set your projects as easy as possible. So if you are interested in using Helidon and you actually don't know how to do that, please follow the guides in the documentation section and be sure to select documentation for Helidon 2. Then there is a Helidon CLI tool, which could help you greatly with the beginnings in a Helidon. So yeah, that's actually what I think that for beginners might be the most useful thing to do. And yeah, that's what I'm always recommending guys to do, right?
Okay, thank you very much, David.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much too.
It was our pleasure to have you tonight and to have another great Helidon presentation. Yeah, everybody should now be able to build a cool app with Helidon, and yeah, try it out, download it from a website, combine it with the MicroStream and build cool apps. Yeah, and watch the video. If you like the video, then subscribe to our channel. So all videos or all sessions of this hackathon are recorded and provided on our YouTube channel. So subscribe to the channel and get involved. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for your time.